Butch Harmon.
When you're in the fairway bunker at 6-iron distance, hit the 5.
David Leadbetter.
Get your shirt buttons on top of your right leg. It's very simple.
Haney.
I think the biggest contributor in golf to somebody's potential is speed.
Jim McLean.
Part of being a good chipper is being able to read the situation.
Individually, they are the top 4 minds in golf instruction. Together, they represent an unprecedented meeting of the minds. Golf Digest presents the Big 4.
First, on behalf of Golf Digest, I want to welcome you and thank you for being here today. This is an exciting opportunity, and we're really happy to get the 4 of you together. By way of introduction, on my left, we have Butch Harmon and Jim McLean. On my right, we have David Leadbetter and Haney. And you know, to have the Big 4, as we like to call you back in the office, together at one table like this is really a special opportunity, and I'm sure our session here today will show just that. You know, when we ask the readers of Golf Digest what they want more of in the magazine, they tell us 2 things. They say they want more instruction over and above everything else. Give me more instruction is what they say. And the second thing they tell us is they want that instruction from one of the 4 of you sitting at this table. So thank you for being here, and let's get right to the discussion. Golf Digest has been at it for 60 years. We started publishing in 1950. And in that time, we've seen an evolution in golf instruction and in the golf swing itself. So we'd like to look at that evolution in terms of the star players of their eras. So my first question is for Butch. In 1950, Ben Hogan was the king. What is it about Hogan's technique, the way he played the game, that has left a legacy for golfers that follow?
Well, I think he left a legacy that's both good and bad. The good part would be he was probably the most consistent and phenomenal ball striker of any player any of us have ever seen. The way he controlled his ball through the air, I think, was the biggest key. The negative part was everyone who played golf tried to copy Hogan, and unless you had his body type or the speed of his body in his hands, it was pretty hard to play from such a flat position unless you had the rotational speed that he had. But for me, watching him strike the ball, I don't think I've ever seen anybody could control a golf ball through the air like Ben Hogan could.
Anybody else on Hogan?
Well, I think, you know, he left a phenomenal legacy with his book. I would say all of us have probably read Hogan's writings more than anyone, probably. So he left, he was way ahead of his time on a lot of things. And, you know, he had the Hogan mystique also. I mean, he's going to be remembered forever for his game and just the overall Hogan mystique. And as Butch said, you know, the control of the golf ball and his ideas on playing the game.
Well, I think also the fact that when you look at his book, it was the first anatomical approach to golf, and you could actually see, it's almost, if you look at today, the way biomechanics are being used to study the golf swing, it was the first approach, shall we say, on that line. The fact when you look at the muscularity, the skeletal drawings, was phenomenal, and I think it broke the swing down to such an extent. So not only from a player standpoint, but from an instructor standpoint. As I agree with Butch, I think, you know, he messed up a lot of people, certainly with the grip in itself. Remembering that Hogan in his early years was a huge hooker of the ball, and he did everything in his power not to hook it. But I think, you know, the legacy that he's left, the fact that, you know, he thought about the golf swing more than anybody else, probably before or since.
Specifically about his grip, a weak grip, weak in the left hand, is that what you're saying?
Well, if you looked at the grip in his latter days, I mean, it was very much a palmy grip. I mean, very, very weak grip. I remember experimenting for 3 or 4 months. I mean, I just couldn't hit anything but right shots. And, you know, there were people who just looked at that grip. I mean, it looks great. I mean, the way his hands were positioned on the club, I mean, it was just amazing. I mean, they just were molded to the club. But the ability that he had, I mean, the flexibility that he had to be able to set the club, most players who stuck it up that high in the palm would have found it very difficult to actually get the club set. You know, take a Nick Price, for instance, who has these solid wrists, the ability to cock the to cock the club having it that high in the palm was impossible. So I think from that standpoint, that weak grip, I mean, I think it developed a world of slices and not necessarily a nation of slices.
Well, and the interesting thing about that, David, was the reason he went to that and the way he swung was because he hooked the ball so badly.
Yeah.
So he was doing everything in his power to keep from hooking ball. And unfortunately, I don't know, 80% of the people that play slice the ball. So when they tried to copy Mr. Hogan's motion, number one, without that body rotation and the speed that he had, it was tough. It was tough for them to do it. And there isn't one of us sitting here at the table, because we all admire Ben Hogan, that didn't try and copy what he did, because we'd go out and try it. I know we did as kids.
Yeah.